possible that as homeless...
HCA Coliseum Park Medical Centers and the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce. I'm Jodi Zielinski, Director of Communications for the Chamber, and I'll be your host for today's show. Today we are featuring two very innovative and somewhat brave women who are about to begin a most interesting project. We have with us Lynn and Joni Woolf, who are, well, actually have recently announced that they are starting the magazine for Macon called, appropriately, Macon Magazine. And I was so excited when I heard about this that I had to ask you to be on the show because I've got a million questions to ask about this. I'm jealous, first of all.
Good.
And I just know that this is going to be a huge success for you. Let me begin, though, by asking the $50,000 question. Whatever made you decide to resign your jobs and start a brand new project like this of starting a magazine?
Well, we had both been looking for some time, and both of us had interest in this area.
Now, wait, by looking, what do you mean?
Well, we had been looking to see what other jobs out there were available that would sort of fit our needs and fit our talent and our expertise. We were not unhappy with our current jobs, but I think there's always room for growth.
But when you say that you were looking for other jobs, had you in the back of your mind the possibility of starting a business?
Yes, we had. We had talked about this for a couple of years, about starting a business, some kind of other business. And this one just surfaced as an idea, and then it just began to move.
Goodness. Had you gone through a long list of ideas for businesses that you wanted to start?
Kind of, yeah. We had considered several options. We both like a lot of the same things, and we had considered everything from gift shops to tea rooms to small restaurants to furniture stores. And then this idea kept coming up again and again, and finally it just seemed the thing to do.
Yeah, it was just right.
The moment, occasionally in your life, the moment is right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's wonderful. You know, many people, when they start a new business, they kind of quietly sneak into a little spot on Cotton Avenue, open up their store. The thing, for some reason or another, is not a success, or they find out they don't really like it, or it's just too much for them to handle, and they quietly just close their door and walk out. Now, when you are heading a magazine in a community, you've got to be one of the highest profile people in Macon, Georgia, and so you're not going to be able to just say, well, you know, let's just get out of this quietly.
Hold our candy and sneak away.
Quite obvious thing. How do you feel about that? What's your attitude about the high profile and the, do you find this scary?
Well, people keep saying to us, gosh, you're brave.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because we're a little naive. I think we think almost that we can't fail.
Yeah.
That the market is good, the time is right, and that if we work very hard, and we both are accustomed to working very hard, and I think we're both very high energy people too, Jodi, who are used to producing a lot, and we think Macon's ready. I think it has to do with the belief.
So you don't even think about failing?
No, we don't. We just think this is the time is right, and we're ready for it, and Macon's ready for it. So,
and I guess you've talked to enough people that you've had some support. People have verbally given you support.
Very supportive. Yeah. I've been amazed.
You know, we've talked to people at the Chamber, talked to businessmen and women in town. One of the most, I think, reinforcing things that has happened to us, I was out of my home the day that the article appeared in the local newspaper about our magazine, but Lynn got several calls from people who wanted to buy ads.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. For the
They're
first
calling you?
So we thought we would just put an ad on TV that says, if you want an ad, call.
You won't have to go out and sell the first ad. Oh,
that was very... We thought very supportive of this community.
Obviously, yeah. And people are going to want to jump on the bandwagon, I would
Well, we hope so, because there's so much going on in Macon. We think they'll want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Gosh, that's wonderful. Now, one does not just start a magazine. Obviously, you've had to do a great deal of homework. What were some of the resources you used? Who were some of the people you went to see? And what kinds of things did you find out about starting a magazine that maybe you didn't know before?
Well, we found out that some that had started closed, ones that we thought were very good. But
did you find out why?
Yes. One magazine in particular was run by a group out of another state, And I think you need to be there on the scene to have a magazine. But this one had been owned by a company in another state. The people who were writing articles or the selling ads couldn't get in touch with the owners, so they were not visible in the community themselves.
Right.
We also looked at some very successful magazines, one being Augusta Magazine, and Johnny's got a copy of that here.
Oh yeah, hold that up. Maybe let's see, over here, they can see that, yeah. Okay.
That's been in existence. It's in its 11th year now, and we went over and visited with the owner, the new owner of that, back in January, and talked with him, and he's going to serve sort of as a consultant to us for a while to help us get off the ground. And he's very willing to share all of his knowledge, and he's been very helpful to us already.
It sounds like it, because you are patterning your magazine after Augusta.
To a large degree. We have looked, of course, we've seen, I guess, most of the major magazines in the Southeast and some from other parts of the country. Winston-Salem, Nashville, Atlanta, Savannah, Columbus. Some are still in existence, some are not. Atlanta Magazine is very slick and very fine. Augusta Magazine is very slick and very fine, but it's a little more...
homey?
A little more homey. Augusta is a town more like Macon.
Right.
In terms of its population and its history. It has a strong sense of where it came from, where its people came from, what they're about as a community, and I think we want to put a lot of emphasis on that, just as Augusta has. So this has become our model.
Yeah, well, that's great. And the gentleman who owns this, you say, is going to help consult for you. Did he start the Augusta magazine himself?
No,
also?
he bought it from someone else.
I just wondered, yeah.
He bought it from a woman, as
But
a matter of fact.
Oh,
a woman
started it.
Who was a friend. So he'd been in touch with the magazine and knew the inner workings of the magazine when the other lady had owned it.
Well, see, that's what I'd like to do. You see, I'm going to wait for the magazine to be a success, and then I'll get some backers and buy it from you.
We've had several friends who have offered to invest once it becomes successful.
Yeah.
They're not real risky, but just once it gets
Yeah, right. All the risk is gone. Things established, and then, you can buy them out. But again, I think it's marvelous that you're starting at the ground level, and I know that you've had to do a lot of homework. Have you had to do any traveling to look at other magazines?
Not a great deal. We've been very fortunate in that people in other areas have sent us information about magazines.
Yeah.
So our traveling.
What's a thing or two that you've learned about starting magazines that you really didn't think about before?
Oh, of course, cost. Just the simple. It's the absolute major thing. The cost of printing, which is your major cost.
Huge, isn't it?
Another thing that surprised me, I'd always assumed, because I subscribe to several magazines, and I think the cost that I pay,
it's $1.25, right?
But I think that's a lot. How dare they go up to $2?
Yeah.
And then when you realize that the cost of subscriptions is nothing in terms of income.
Right.
For a magazine, unless you're selling, 5 million a Time magazine kind of coverage. But a magazine like Augusta Magazine or Macon Magazine is going to live or die on its ads,
right.
its sponsors, its supporters, and that surprised me. Somehow I thought all those people out there who bought the magazine paid for it, and what that actually covers is a little less than the printing cost. And,
wow.
The subscription cost is minimal.
Yeah.
One thing that was interesting to me when the newspaper article came out, Jerry Rogers from Augusta said the success depended upon the civic mindedness of the community. We're not putting it back on the community, but we would like to see that Macon is, like to know and prove that it is civic-minded and could support something like this. Because what we're doing is really just mirroring what Macon is and what Macon does. And we're proud of Macon, proud to be a part of Macon, and we think Macon has just a lot to tell the world about.
Right.
Yeah, I recently ran an elder hostel program through my job at Mercer on the Wesleyan campus, and one of the older people who we were visiting said, "You have a wonderful city, but I had never even heard the name of Macon until I saw it in an elder hostel catalog." He said, "Why don't you all tell the world about Macon?"
Oh, for
I said, "Well,
sake.
we're going to try."
Working on it, yeah. Well, let's see then, other than the people that you mail this to as subscribers, and you may have it in the magazine racks, do you see other uses for this magazine?
We have talked with people at the Chamber of Commerce who have suggested they would really like to use, if not the whole magazine all the time, excerpts that focus on the city of Macon that they would like to use to send to people they're trying to encourage to move to Macon, businesses they want to get into the city. And we think that's very flattering, that the magazine
Certainly
would produce the kinds of things that the Chamber could use to.
Right, and I can even see not only bringing new companies here, but the magazine would be useful to companies already here who are trying to bring executives, doctors, nurses.
And we hope that as the convention business grows in Macon, that people who are here will pick up a magazine because they'll learn from the magazine the things to do and places to go and eat and just a lot about the town.
Yeah.
As I had said earlier, when we were in West Palm Beach this spring for Brave Spring Training, which is the big event of my life, if we had not had a West Palm Beach magazine, we wouldn't have had any idea where restaurants were, what kind of food they serve, what their price range was. In a new town, unless you have a friend along with you, you don't have any idea where to go or what to look for. So something like this.
Same thing happened to me in Indianapolis 2 weeks ago. I went to dinner 3 nights purely based on what was in the Indianapolis magazine.
Yeah.
And gosh, it does lend an air of sophistication to a community to have a magazine. I'm hoping too that that's going to be the thing to have, you know, that if you don't subscribe to Macon Magazine, you're not
informed.
That's right, you're not up on the latest issues. Who is going to do what for the magazine? Joni, you've obviously got your jobs, and Lynn, you've got your jobs, and how are you dividing that up?
Well, we had to give ourselves a title just for incorporation, and so since Joni had more writing ability and she was more in touch with the writers, she's the editor-in-chief. I was given the title publisher.
That means she is responsible for getting it produced and...
And now, okay, now those are fancy titles.
Yeah.
How about getting down to the nitty-gritty? What exactly are you going to be doing?
Practically, I think that probably means that she has a better business head. And I think I probably have a very creative streak in terms of I write myself and I know good writing, and in terms of judging the quality of the writing that we get in from the writers that we'll be contracting to write for us. I will probably do a little more work in that area. But we'll both be involved in selling ads and visiting people in the community, although eventually I'd like to make just a note about what we'd like to do with ads, because this has worked so well for Augusta.
Yeah, go ahead.
They have used Augusta College marketing students in their business school there to sell ads for them, and we would like to do that with Mercer's School of Business, because it's a wonderful experience for them. They make a commission. They do it strictly on commission. It would save us a world of time. However, at the beginning, we think it is just so crucial that we make, you know, first contact with all the people whose support we are seeking. Because
gosh, how many hours do you expect to put in this a
millions,
day?
millions.
Yeah, 23, right?
Yeah.
Goodness. And Lynn, now you're going to be handling the business end. What does that mean, other than advertising? You're the main advertising contact. Is that it?
Well, I guess so. Also, the books. We're just getting into this, having never had a business before. We've handled books in our own offices, but never from the beginning like this. So we're working with a CPA, and we're getting that taken care of. So there'll be checks to be paid, and also, you know, I'd like to do some non-writing things, but like putting together some of the things in the magazine, like if we do a restaurant review, you know, some of the layout part of it, just in spacing. I don't know yet. We've started Monday, and we'll know a lot
I think,
more.
Jodi, one of the most exciting things about this, if I may say so, we have both spent our working lives working for other people, which has been good. And I think I can say we have both spent our working lives working for nonprofit organizations, where you have to, with schools and churches and, you know, nonprofit institutions, where you have to be careful with every penny. So we know how to be careful with every penny. But I think the great freedom about this is that it's ours to decide how we want to do it.
That's right.
It will be as good as we can possibly make it.
And the beauty of it, too, is that both of you, you're small enough so that both of you can get into the other's areas a little bit and get experience in the business end or in the creative end. And
yeah, we've been friends for a long time, and we keep saying that we've got to be very careful, you know, to protect our friendship and not, you know, not get in each other's way in terms of the business. But I think you hit on something very important. It's small enough that we can each learn what the other is doing, and there are no fine lines saying you can only do this and you can only do that.
Yeah. And we both
it's ours.
We're just bursting with ideas. You know, I'll call Johnny's, I just thought of something. She just thought of something.
I can imagine that phone is hot, isn't it? The line between
it
both
really
of
is.
you.
If a day passes and we haven't talked, we think, oh dear, we must be losing ideas.
Somebody's not as enthusiastic as yesterday. How will you get your stories, the photography, the graphics, things like that? Obviously, you're not going to be able to write 3 million stories, you know.
There are a lot of writers in Macon, and even Augusta Magazine has only 2 people on its staff, really.
Full-time.
My.
and their editor is part-time there. It's the husband and wife who are the owner and the assistant editor and
Beth Feliciano,
and
yeah.
then the editor.
Wow.
So they have contributing writers, which we plan to do, and a lot of writers have already contacted us, and we would like to say that people are welcome to submit articles to us. That does not mean they will all be accepted, because Joni has that editorial responsibility.
That's right.
And we certainly want it to be a good magazine with good writing.
Yeah.
Well, and Joni's such a good writer. I know that it's going to be very high quality.
Yeah, I would say, though, to any aspiring writer, I do think I'm a good writer, but I have had many things rejected that I've sent off. Sometimes the timing is just not right. Somebody sends in something that's very good, but it doesn't fit maybe the theme you've developed for that particular edition. So I would encourage everybody who is interested at all in writing to send in and not be disappointed if,
Right.
you know, if it
Yeah,
doesn't
and
get
try
chosen
and
right
try
away.
and try again.
Exactly.
Because,
That's how things get published.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes this may be the first place you're ever published, and 10 years down the road, you will add that to your list of places that you've
I
been
would
published.
be proud to be published by Macon
Yeah,
Magazine. Well, I want to get into this a little bit more, but we're going to have to take a break. But don't go away, because we've got more to talk about.
Joyce is a good friend, but lately she just doesn't seem to care about anything. Alcohol finally got the best of her. But thanks to her friends in Coliseum Psychiatric Hospital, she's learning to care again.
A 21-day alcohol and drug abuse program is only part of the services offered at Coliseum Psychiatric Hospital. Trained professionals direct the patient's return to a normal way of life. Coliseum Psychiatric Hospital, programs of excellence for your family. That's Coliseum Care.
Macon is full of special places. Think of those unique places that attract other people here. Places we take for granted, like the Coliseum, Ocmulgee National Monument, Hay House, Grand Opera House, the Cannonball House, Macon Pirates, and the finest hospitals in Middle Georgia. We've got a lot of things other cities don't have, and that makes us special.
Macon, something worth shouting about.
And we're back on the Business Macon Show. We're talking with Lynn Cass and Joni Woolf about an exciting new project that they're doing. Actually, not just a project, it's their livelihood. It's a business. And that is the Macon Magazine. We were talking about writers submitting, I was going to say subscribing, submitting
That too.
stories, yeah, right, to your magazine. What about artists and photographers? The same thing? You're going to ask them to send in pictures, although that's a little different because you have to have the photography and the artwork that goes with the story.
We would
right?
like to see files, you know, photographers' files, because most photographers do have a good file of pictures.
Portfolio or whatever. This Augusta magazine, which I've shown you before, this picture here is done by a local Augusta artist who has been on several of their covers. And I think something we need to say too, Jodi, that what we really want to rely on to a very large degree is Macon talent. Macon artists, Macon writers, Macon photographers, and of course from time to time we'll go outside because we don't want to be, you know, totally provincial.
Right.
On the other hand, it is to showcase us.
That's
and our
right.
people.
Amen to that. I like that. And my goodness, we have so many wonderful artists. I think you'd be hard-pressed to select
How
a
would you even
cover.
choose among our own?
That's
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
you know, and even photographers. Now, I imagine people are going to be submitting stories to you and you'll like that particular idea and use it. But what about sending people out on assignment? Will you do that also?
We will be
Yes.
doing that also. In fact, I've already gotten a call from one writer who is a prominent Macon writer. Has lived in this area for a long time, and she said, I do creative writing, but I also do writing by assignment. If there's any assignment you'd like to send me on, I'm ready to go.
Because if we want to cover something that's, you know, coming out quarterly, and we will be a quarterly magazine, we won't be able to be as current as a daily or
They'll
anything.
have to be feature
Yes, there'll
stories.
be features, but we can feature something in depth, and I think that's what is so needed, is some in-depth writing about somebody or something.
Have you got a list of stories for your first issue?
Oh, we've got to narrow it down. We've got so many. We don't want to blow everything on this one issue.
Yeah, I can imagine all your best ideas.
I guess we have probably 40 ideas for stories, and we'll
my
only take
goodness.
6 or 8 for the first edition, in addition to the features, which we will have with the features will be continuous, like dining out and focus on your health and a sports feature and a business feature. But then there'll be 7 to 8 to 10 feature articles in addition. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Are you allowed to tell us one of the ideas or to whet our appetites, or must we buy an issue?
You'll have to buy an issue. We'll find that out Monday morning when we get in our new office.
Yeah, that's right. You know, really, you haven't had a chance because you still are working.
She's still
2 more
working
days.
today. Yesterday was my last day.
Oh,
So.
right. So you really haven't sat down and Ben put on your
No,
Macon magazine hat.
All this has been done late at night.
Oh, my
We met one day, but that day was spent going to see an attorney and to see, we had to go
CPA.
see all these people.
Yeah.
Oh, I can imagine the.
So our
landlord
creativity has
work.
been done in little tiny, moments of time.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, then I won't be unfair to you and ask you too many things that you can't answer at this point. I know, though, that your first issue is going to be, what, December?
Mid-November, it will come
okay.
out.
For the November.
It'll be the December,
for the
January, and
December.
February. It'll be our winter issue. But
That's how that works. Oh, so you're running
It's
December,
seasonal,
January,
yeah.
February, and then
Seasonal
March, April,
quarters,
May
yeah.
is spring, June, July, August,
Summer.
summer,
then
September, October, November.
fall.
Right.
Okay.
So mid-November, the winter issue should be out.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Time for
That's-
Christmas and winter happenings.
How far in advance does a magazine have to be working for its next issue? I mean, how far do you have to start?
6 months, more or less.
Wow.
Well, as soon as we finish this one, we knew that this summer we really wanted it to be the only leisurely time, and it won't be leisurely, we just said that. This would be our leisurely issue because we would have the summer to work on it. But see, as soon as the other one comes out, we'll be turning right around and going
Doing
for
the
the
next
next
issue,
one.
right. Oh, my goodness. And actually be working on 2 at once, probably.
Right.
Yes.
For the rest of our lives, that's what we're, the very first one was the easiest in some ways, in that there was not anything we're having to catch up from that we're bringing over into
That's
right now.
right. That's
But
right.
we'll be thinking a year ahead probably from now on because this year's Cherry Blossom, we'll be taking pictures for the next year's issue. At Christmas, we'll have to get Christmas pictures for
For the
next
next
year.
year's issue, yeah.
So, yeah.
Goodness.
Requires a lot of planning.
Yeah, tell me about that. But still, again, I say most exciting. How large will the magazine actually be? How thick? Or I know that you are going to pattern it. Will be that exact size?
Somewhere between 60 and 100 pages.
And that'll
depending
depend
the
on
issue.
advertising?
Yeah,
Or the...
well, it depends to a large degree on advertising, and then the kind of issues that we are particularly focusing on that time. I would guess, for instance, that the Cherry Blossom, the spring issue, might be the largest one every year because that's when our largest influx of tourists are in town.
True.
And we have so much we want to say to them and offer them in the way of entertainment and events going on.
Gosh, and you'll only have done 1 issue before you get into your biggie. But at least you'll have 1 to get your feet wet a little bit. What about the layout of your magazine? Would you be using a printer to do that? Is that how that's going to work?
Yes, we do. We have a printer, and they do layout for us. They will give us some say-so over, if we don't like the way some things are, and we will get to choose the type. We want it to look.
Type style and all that, yeah. And then they will call for graphics when needed and have those done for you and stuff. So you won't really have to worry about that too much.
That's what we didn't know before we started this, because we just saw ourselves up at night late, laying out this magazine.
Yeah, pasting up. Listen, I don't know if you've ever been in a printing office. You probably have, but taking that little razor blade and cutting out a word and replacing it with the correct...
That was our vision, yeah.
When we realized we didn't have to do that, we thought, hey, this sounds easier.
Yeah. Well, you'll have enough to do anyway without having to lay out stuff. But that's good. Have you got a title logo, the Macon magazine logo yet for the front cover?
We've had several submitted, and we're still looking at some, but we're pretty near there. But we're
so
not.
You would take new ideas.
If they come in a hurry. We really need to decide something like next week or the next week, sometime in the next couple of weeks.
We're going to be getting out some promotional brochures soon, too, and we want to go ahead and have our logo ready and say for our stationery and business cards.
Goodness. Well, Macon artists and graphic artists, beware. They're ready to take ideas if you get them in quickly for the masthead. Is that what you call it, or title logo? Right. We're going to take a break just for a minute again. We've got more to talk about, though, on Macon Magazine, so stay tuned.
My
grandson hurt his back at work, could hardly get out of bed this morning. Lucky for him, his doctor recommended the back rehabilitation program.
At HCA Coliseum, back rehabilitation involves thorough testing to determine the extent of back damage. Modern equipment is also available to treat back injuries and aid in the rehabilitation process. All part of the occupational, physical, and rehabilitative programs. HCA Coliseum Medical Centers, healthcare centers of excellence for your family. That's Coliseum Care.
We're all watching our pennies these days, especially businessmen and women. That's why joining the Chamber of Commerce is such a good investment. For just pennies a day, you'll be hiring a full-time organization that's working to improve business right here in Macon. You'll meet other business people and potential clients and customers. Maybe the best thing about Chamber membership is your money is returned to you in a number of ways. Plus, it's tax deductible.
And we're back for the final portion of the Business Macon show, and we're talking about the new Macon magazine, which Lynn Cass and Johnny Woolf are putting together for us for getting ready for the fall issue in November. We were talking a little bit about advertising, or we made reference to that before. Are you going to be, other than maybe using some Mercer students, will you be hiring any full-time sales staff? Do you anticipate?
Not right at first. As Johnny said, we will be doing most of it ourselves at first, and then when we do hire advertising people, you know, maybe down the road we will, but we'll be, when we do hire people now, it will be on commission only.
This is an odd thing for me to bring up, but since we've not had a slick magazine in Macon, probably ever, I don't remember that we've ever had one, advertising in magazines is different than advertising in anything else because it has to be a very high quality, slick, attractive piece. Do you think that's going to be a problem with businesses in Macon not used to advertising in magazines? There are a lot of, what's the word, technical things that you have to know about advertising in magazines, I would think.
Well, you look at the big businesses here, though.
They're used to it.
They're used to it, and they've all advertised in other places, and probably the small business who has not will have to go to a graphics agency and come up with their own ad and then submit that to us.
Yeah, because it's not like when for my newsletter at the Chamber, I tell people just send me the copy and I'll have the printer lay it out. But really, people are going to have to get used to camera-ready advertising, high quality, color separation, second to none, and all that.
And of course, if it's a very small business who doesn't, for instance, even know who to call, who to contact, we will have a file of graphics artist who would be happy to go call on them and work on some kind of commission basis or contract basis to do work for them.
Gee, I think this is going to be not only a boost for Macon, but especially for the advertising agencies and the graphic artists in town.
We think so, yeah.
That's great. How do you plan to distribute your magazine? Obviously, you'll have subscriptions, but are you going to? How does one distribute a magazine to every single store in Macon that sells magazines?
Well, I don't know if we would distribute to every single store, but I do know of 2 places in Macon that sell magazines who have asked us if we would put some there. One of them does not carry any other magazine because she said distributors usually require you to carry 300 different kinds of magazines because that's just volume.
Right.
So those that don't carry magazines at all would be willing to carry just ours. We hope that we can contact all the motels and hotels to see if they would carry them. Restaurants, some restaurants may be willing to have a rack.
Yeah.
And of course, we would hope doctors, lawyers, professional people with banks would subscribe to the magazine to put it in their lobbies because that's where you get a lot of
definitely. Well, do you think there may be a day when I'm standing in line in the grocery store and there's 3 people in front of me and I'll pick up Macon magazine?
Oh, I think so.
And you know,
decide whether you want to buy it or not.
I tell you, those magazine racks have saved me a number of times from being irritated standing in line.
Oh, besides, I did want to say this, we will have a food section every time.
Oh, great. Oh, that'll be wonderful. You know, I could talk forever on this subject. I'm afraid we have to wrap it up. And I thank you both for being on the show. I wish you all the luck in the world. And I just know, knowing both of you, that Macon Magazine will be a success.
Thank you, Jodi.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching our show. We'll see you next week here on CTV6 for the Business Macon Show.
Thank you for watching Business Macon, produced by Cox Cable Macon and the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce.